Welcome everyone. This is lecture 3 of the data structure and algorithm course. Today we're going to be talking about getting started with data structures and how it fits in with object-oriented programming. So the overall idea that we're going to go today and implement is a basic pizza and how we can go about using an object called a pizza that we implement for an overall larger program. So to begin with, let's start from a top-down approach. Well, assuming that we already have the pizza implemented, what would the code look like to initialize two pizzas and get some information out? Well, the first thing is we're going to initialize a pizza as a new pizza, of course, but we're going to not send anything in. When we do not send anything in, this is called the default constructor, because it will default to initialize with preset variables. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to implement a secondary pizza, but this time we're going to send information in. And the information we're sending in is the size and the toppings that we want. So if we go back to the default implementation using the default constructor, we assume that we've set it with a very basic size and topping. And again, that's later on we'll talk about, but for now I just wanted to familiarize you guys with the default constructor. After that, it's just a basic print statement where we're saying we have the first pizza of a given size with a given topping, and then we have the second pizza with a given size and a given topping. From there, we also implement a static variable for the pizza class called numPizzas. So in this case, it will show us that we have two pizzas. And we'll go more into detail about explaining how static variables are used and how to implement them in Java object-oriented programming. So this all is very basic, very top level. But let's dive deeper into it now. So the way we're going to dive deeper is look at the pizza object. Oh, the pizza class. There we go. So in this case, we're defining a pizza. One thing to note is that the class name needs to match the class file name. So in this case, we have pizza.java as well as the class correspondingly named pizza. From there, we have instant variables, which are set to private because every pizza needs to only worry about the information corresponding to it. So in this case, if we implemented one pizza, it doesn't need to know the sizes of all of the other pizzas that we're making. It needs to know its own size. Correspondingly with the toppings, if you have a single pizza, that pizza, it only cares about the toppings it's using, not the toppings of other pizzas. After that, we have something a little different. We have a static variable called number of pizzas, which we initialize to 1. So the thing we have with static is that a static variable can share information or can be referenced by other things. So we initialize it to 1, and we're making it public so everybody can access how many pizzas total are being used. So let's make a comment. Num pizzas is equal to number of initialized pizzas. Great. From there, we're going to initialize the default constructor. Again, this is the default constructor since we're not sending in any information. We set the default of the size to be medium and the default topping to be cheese. And again, with the number of pizzas, since we've constructed or implemented another pizza, what we're wanting to do is increment the number of pizzas overall. So this would go up to 2, and then if you initialize another pizza, it will correspondingly go up to 3, and so on and so forth. However, if we don't use a default constructor, we can use another constructor that has the inputs associated with it. So you can send in the size and the topping, and then it will set this dot size to the corresponding size and this dot toppings to the corresponding toppings. But what does this mean? This references the chunk of memory allocated for the given pizza. So if you initialize an integer or an array, you would have corresponding array memory or the integer memory of where that information will be stored. This just reinforces the idea that you're working within a given set of memory. So we're working with this pizza. The next thing is something called getters and setters. It's also correspondingly called accessors and mutators. So they allow you to edit and change the variables of a given class. For example, they're usually initialized with either get or set. So for size, you can get the size, where it's returning this chunk of memory and the size associated with it. However, say I want to change the size, well, we can say set size, and we can send in the updated value, and we can say for this chunk of memory, the size is now the updated value. So this is a very simple example of a Java class. And if we run our code now, we can see the initial pizza, pizza 1. It has the default values, which are medium and cheese. Pizza 1 is medium with cheese for toppings. And then the second one, we correspondingly sent in a small pepperoni pizza. So we can see pizza 2 is a small pepperoni pizza. However, even though we have two different sets of memory for two different sets of pizzas, since the number of pizzas is set to static, everything that has a class pizza associated with it has access to this one value, which is initially set to 1 with this. And then as we initialize the second one, it would increment over to 2. So we have 2 pizzas that we've initialized. Well, that's all for this little example. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice day.